Howdy. I looked at the recent Budapest World Cup and from 2021 and basically broke it down into clips so I could throw it through the Saber Box. Basically, I looked at things where there was no blade action, middle of the strip, not a lot of camera motion, that sort of thing. Things that were, most of the controversial on calls in Saber and having to do with kind of right away. So anyway, broke it up, a whole bunch of clips. I think I have like 176 of them. Ordered them up and looked at it in terms of what the director would call it and then what the Saber Box said it would be. So then I looked at it and I looked at which ones agreed, which ones disagreed. And I found of 176, 82 agreed, 81 disagreed, which is about 50%. It's kind of disappointing. Figured more, but we'll see. And then I excluded about 13 of them. So for the ones I excluded, I took them out because either it wasn't tracking the bell guards well, or there was searching with the blade, which I'll look at a little bit later, but it evidently has trouble with searching, which is kind of interesting. So 176 clips, these are what it broke down to, gave 50% agreement with the director. Naturally then I went and actually watched a bunch of clips and kind of saw what the box was looking at. And I agreed with the box a lot more often than I thought it would, a lot more than I felt, like 50%. And a lot of them it varied on, it still seemed to be pretty reasonable. So then, just because I had all the data, I was like, well, let's see who would have benefited the most by the Saber Box versus the director's calls. And this was kind of interesting. So, first one you notice is Bazadze, and that's just probably due to sample error. If you look at the clips, he was only in 4 of the clips, and 2 of them they were given to the right when I thought they would have been, when the box would have given them to Bazadze, and one was simul by the director, but the box would have given it to the left, i.e. Bazadze. And so basically there would have been a 5-point swing. So the box would have given basically a 5-point swing, because if it was given to the left and I said it should have been right, I would count that as 2 points. If it was simul but it should have been right, I would count that as 1 point. Long story short, for each of the clips analyzed, Bazadze would have gotten 1 1/4 points or 5/4 points otherwise. Only 4 clips, small sample size. That's probably why it's out there. Now, some of the other interesting ones, though, this would kind of show the positive values here would be the fencers that would be favored by the Saber Box as opposed to the conventional, traditional directors. And I thought it was interesting that the other next 2 highest were O and Lokanov, which kind of makes sense. The box just looks at the hand position, specifically the horizontal hand position. And one of the key things you see when O is fencing, despite the fact that he's tall, is he's very smooth and he really keeps his hand steady and smooth going forward. And it makes sense that this box then would favor that, because that's all it's really looking for, is the acceleration of the hand and that you're not quickly jerking it to a stop. A lot of fencers you'll see, they'll come forward, drop their hand, come back up quickly. And you think of that like in terms of attack and preparation, that sort of thing. Well, while O is just, most of his attacks, many of his attacks, are just slow, smooth, and strong. And it makes sense then that the box would then favor that. And Lokanov is, from what I can tell, is a similar fencer. Also tall, also has many smooth attacks. So, thought that was interesting. Some of the other ones, I guess, were Satmari and Vecchi would have benefited more from the director than the box. It was interesting, Zalagi was almost even. So despite the fact that he was in many clips, because he was both in men's Saber individual finals and semifinals, he was also in the team finals. So lots of clips of him, and it was kind of a wash, which I thought was pretty interesting. Looking at a couple of clips here, one of the things I said the box had trouble with was searching. And this was, I thought, an interesting example of that. So this, I would call this attack from the left, because right is searching. You see searching from the right. Well, what the box just sees, it just sees the bell guard. It's not looking at the blade at all, because it's too hard to see the blade. And so it's looking at just the bell guard position. So if we look at the tracked box, we have something like kind of like this, where if you look at the right fencer's bell guard, you can tell it's smooth going forward. And even though he's searching, it's just looking at the bell guard, so it still would view this as O's attack, and Zawo does a little bit of a stop right there, and the box penalizes him for that abrupt stop, but rewards O. And this is interesting because right now the box really isn't equipped to see this, and the reason is because the way I think that this could be corrected is it detects the lights turning on by the bell guard position. So as soon as when the bell guards are close, like that, then they both hit and the lights turn on. A little bit of inaccuracies there. And so the way I basically detect the blade, the way I should detect the blade, and I think I will in the future, is based on the lights in the box. So if you look at the lights in the box, and a little bit obscured, that's when the left fencer hits. Well, the way you can basically determine the blade position is a combination of bell guard location and if they hit or not. So since the left fencer hit, you know that his blade is basically pointing towards the opponent, where on the right, since he's searching, it was off to the side and didn't hit yet. And so the way the box is right now is it says both fencers hit because the bell guards were close. And the reason for that is because I've had difficulty reliably tracking the box, and you get different boxes, especially at big tournaments. You get kind of unique boxes like this, and you can't always. It's hard to train an AI to know all of them. It's getting pretty good though, and so eventually I think the plan will be that I basically look at it detects the box, and then it just looks at the top left corner, and once the top left corner changes color, then it's like, light turned on. And so here you can see that it's about 3 frames later that the green light actually turns on. And so from that, you should be able to tell that the right fencer searched, because even though their bell guard was attacking, they weren't really attacking with a blade. And I think that distinction can be made with the Saber AI. And once I get that data incorporated, I think it actually will be able to detect searches. So there's a handful of the 13 or so that I didn't include. Maybe half of them were due to a fencer searching and the box not picking up on that. So another interesting example, kind of going with the searching theme here, we have an instance where both fencers kind of search. So from the left, it looks like, I don't know if it's an avoidance of parry or a search from the parry from the left or an attempted parry from the right, and then the fencers both go. And so for this, the box kind of detects what's going on because the fencers are far enough away that it doesn't quite turn on yet. So looking at the tracked clip, we have, let's pause this, see that there are no lights yet, both search, and it's not until there that the lights turn on. So it kind of detected the searches. It said they both searched and then went, and I think the director called this one attack left, and this one would have called it, the Saber Box would have called it attack simultaneous. So, and what's interesting too is it detects the scoring box, but it detects the scoring box down here. So that's kind of interesting. I think it did a fairly reliable job of tracking it. That's kind of cool. So again, both search, both go, and it calls it simul, which when you look back at the original clip, I think that simul would not be an unreasonable call. It feels like left touch because you do see more direct attack right there after the 2 search. So yeah, and once I do a better job of tracking the box and it detects lights, the box might very well call this attack from the left, just because left hits so much earlier than the right fencer. And by so much earlier, I mean like 1, 2, maybe 3 frames, which, a 20th of a second. Might not sound like a lot, but I guess, in Saber, that's pretty substantial. All right, one more clip I'd like to look at before I go to all the videos. I thought this was an interesting clip here. because the Saber Box actually called this attack from the left. And when you look at it, because it's looking at just the bell guards, you see that looking on from the left, even though he's kind of counterattacking with his body, if you look at just the bell guard, that looks a lot like an attack. And so I think what the box is seeing here is Hubers from the right coming forward, preparing, because his hand drops, and then attack in preparation from the left. Even though, because the hands and the body seem to be doing basically different things from it intuitively. If you look at just the hands, you'd be like, oh yeah, attack from the left, counterattack from the right. But when you look at the bodies as well, you're like, all right, it looks pretty reasonably to be a counterattack from the left and basically just a march from the right. So looking at the tracked clip, this is what the box is seeing. Whoop, and that's a little bit quick. Go down frame by frame here. So right about here, you can see that it sees the left bell guard continually going forward just until about when it hits. And you can see from the right fencer a slow down, stop, and then go again. So it makes sense from the input that the box is getting that it would actually call this attack from the left, which I found interesting. And I think with more training, it would just get the call correct, where an attack from the right, counterattack from the left. But this is such an unusual touch that when you only have like 350 or so clips, this would be obscure enough that it might not understand how to deal with something like this. So I thought that was quite interesting. All right, so now without too much rigmarole, here are the 176 clips I did. I play them in basically just the normal clip, then I do it the tracked clip, and then I do a slower version of the track clip. So you can kind of see what's going on with all the clips. If you get a chance, they're kind of in order as best I can. They have little links down in the comments so you can skip ahead to the section that you like. But if you get a chance, I'd recommend looking at them and kind of look at them with an open mind. And I also show, what the director called, what the box called, so you can kind of compare and contrast what the two are saying, which I found is interesting. Recommend looking at them. Take care. See you next time.
you.